Hello, I'm Mike Schwager. I'm a publicist, writer, media interview trainer, and media consultant. I arrange media coverage for authors, nonprofit organizations, and companies, and sometimes for countries. I also help position books and organizations to put them in the most appealing light possible. I always tell the truth about my clients, and I always look for the most creative way to do it. My passion is to find the story in my client's repertoire of stories, even when my client may not have found it. My primary website is called MediaMavens.com, and at that site you will find examples of my work on behalf of a variety of clients and the testimonials of those who endorsed my work because, well, they were pleased with what I did for them. I'm always happy to get them, but what I'm focused on is to tell my client's story in a way that will capture the media's attention in the most positive and interesting manner possible. I once handled a book for Harvey Mackay, who asked me to publicize a manuscript of a book called Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. Maybe you heard of it. When he first came to me, Harvey was a first-time unknown author, an envelope manufacturer, and I needed to call upon many creative approaches in promoting him and the book. Fortunately for me, Harvey is an extraordinary individual and a great natural salesman. I say that in the best sense of that word, and representing him was really a delight. He was incredibly energized and never said no to any media placements I put in front of him. I remember once when I landed an interview for him with a syndicated columnist in Cleveland, and all that was required was a phone interview. Harvey is in Minneapolis. Harvey not only flew to Cleveland to meet the columnist, he had lunch with her, and the meeting translated into not one column item, but a series of syndicated column items. Harvey had impressed her that much. I imagine some of you may recall Swim with the Sharks because it became a mega bestseller, nearly a year on the New York Times bestseller list, and nearly 8 million copies sold. One of the many placements I arranged for Harvey was with the Associated Press out of Minneapolis. That was really the first major national placement because it ran on the AP's A-Wire, which is the national wire that goes to hundreds and sometimes thousands of newspapers, both nationally and internationally. That single placement became the engine for more major media pickups, and the rest is history. It showed me the power of the wire services. Years later, when I represented a humanitarian organization, an NGO, called Cure International, which builds and runs teaching hospitals for disabled kids in third world countries, an extraordinary event was about to occur at one of their hospitals not far from South Florida in the Dominican Republic. A baby girl, Rebecca, had been born deformed with an incomplete vestigial head connected to her actual head. The vestigial head needed to be removed, and that surgery would be a first in medical history. Teams of surgeons flew to join the Dominican surgeons, and I knew that this was a story that had great media potential. It was a risky surgery too, and our hearts truly went out for little Rebecca and her family. I first planted a seed with Reuters out of Miami, which ran the story in advance of the event. The pickup on that story was huge and created a great deal of curiosity with the press. All the broadcast network and national cable networks positioned themselves to cover the story. I then notified the local Associated Press reporter out of Santo Domingo, who received permission from his editor in New York to cover the actual story, and that story ran in thousands of newspapers. I had simultaneously worked with a medical reporter from USA Today, for whom I had arranged a phone conference with the doctors in advance of the surgery, and that national newspaper ran over a full page with graphics of the surgery. Sadly, baby Rebecca died in that surgery, though she contributed enormously to the advancement of medical science in understanding that particular aberration and helped future babies with a similar condition to survive. AP then ran a lengthy story about the tragic outcome, as did Reuters and USA Today. Naturally, both the pre-surgical story and the post-event story ran in thousands of newspapers nationwide and internationally, and broadcast network and cable TV newscasts did the same. Recently, I represented Dr. Peter Langman, head of psychology at Kids Peace, the National Center for Kids in Crisis. He had written a book called Why Kids Kill: Inside the Minds of School Shooters. It was an analysis of the mental and emotional conditions of the Columbine killers. I knew that a major story with AP, as well as a story in USA Today, would do much to give life to this book. I worked with the local AP reporter in the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania, where Dr. Langman was situated. The seeds were planted early, and because this was a very busy reporter, I knew that I would need to maintain contact with him on a fairly regular basis. Then, a couple of weeks before the anniversary of Columbine, the reporter interviewed Dr. Langman. He brought a photographer. That was good news. The interview was in-depth. I sensed it would be a long story, and indeed it became just that. The outcome? Over 2,000 newspapers picked the story up. Virtually overnight, the book had been placed on the radar screen of millions of people. In fact, I had also cultivated contact with a reporter from USA Today, again well ahead of the Columbine anniversary. USA Today not only published their story on the front page of the paper, they also had a separate long book review published on the same day. Why Kids Kill, which had barely received any attention until the AP and USA Today stories, had jumped from practically zero on Amazon.com's list to #1 on Amazon's bestseller list for crime books. All of this is to say that the wire services carry great power and impact. That's something that is not always well known, and I wanted to share those 3 stories with you, of how the book Swim with the Sharks, Cure International's Baby Rebecca story, and the book Why Kids Kill had phenomenal media pickup because of the power of the AP Wire and other wire services like Reuters, as well as the national newspaper USA Today. Oh, before I forget, as a former New Yorker, I'm now based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, I should also acknowledge the New York Times as a very important national newspaper. I remember representing Rodale Books and an important new book they had just released called The Hidden Pope. It was the story of Pope John Paul's best Jewish friend, Jerzy Kluger, and how Jerzy had secretly negotiated Vatican diplomatic recognition of Israel. I met Jerzy when he came to America to do a book tour in place of the sudden death of the book's author, Darcy O'Brien. That was very tragic. I worked on communicating the book and its importance to the Times religion editor, Laurie Goodstein. What a gift to Darcy's family when the Times ran a front-page story on the Hidden Pope, the consequence of which also had far-ranging impact in the promotion and sales of the book. I was truly happy. As I was also about to say, it's not always about quantity of media outlets, but quality and impact of certain media. In my years as a publicist for authors, nonprofit organizations, companies, and countries, I've utilized many tools to get my clients' messages to the media and to my clients' most important audiences. So please feel free to visit my website, MediaMavens.com, or visit my blog, PRStraightTalk.com, to read the articles I have written, such as Using Publicity as a Creative Marketing Tool, or The Art of Persuasive Pitching. I hope they will help you understand some of the tools of the trade in getting your message across. I should also add that if you have a speech you need help with, I can help you in this area, especially if you want to deliver a speech that will lift the spirit and inspire your audience. Now, if you would like a free consultation about your own situation and needs, you can reach me at mikemaven@comcast.net or give me a call at 954-423-4414. I'd be happy to chat with you, assess your situation, and determine if I can support you in your communications objectives. I really hope you found something in this little talk that may have been useful to you. It's been my great pleasure and honor to have spent this time with you, and I thank you for having taken the time to listen to me. To paraphrase a former client of mine, I will see you at the top.